Hello, everyone. We're going to wait another minute or so more people can get on. And then we'll start. So if we can see more faces, that would be great. It's just nice to see who we're talking to and see everybody during the meeting time.
Well, I don't think that area is going to be the issue. I think it's those past that we did. Well, all the ones that we're running through, but we didn't get that part of it down. And then we didn't do any of the crap in that storage.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending. Today is March 8th, and looking forward to hearing what everybody has to talk about today. I'm going to introduce Kayla first. Kayla, want to go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do, and if you have any updates? You're muted.
My bad. Obviously, I'm Kayla. I am the project manager at MARR, and I see a lot of familiar faces. I don't think we have any new faces today, but it's nice to see everyone. Basically, all I have for today is just reminding everybody of our new Facebook page. If you weren't on the last meeting or two, we started a Facebook group for all of our operators so they can kind of collaborate with each other and ask questions. We'll have a place to send newer operators to if they need any advice or have any questions or want to get feedback from any other of our more experienced operators. It would be great if more people could join. We have about 16 right now. I'll add the Facebook group in the chat so people can easily go to it during the meeting and add themselves if they'd like. And then just the MARR training. We had a lot more people finish the training since our last meeting, so that's awesome. But there's still a lot of people that need to start it, let alone complete it. So that is due for majority of you by June 1st of this year. So just a couple of months from now. So it's definitely easy to procrastinate, but remember that it's over 20 hours long, and we definitely need to space that out as much as we can so we can get that completed on time. Do you want to go over what we had decided on, Catherine, if people are not finished by June 1st?
Sure. Yeah, for those that have the deadline of June 1st, that's because it started last May. You were currently current operators at the time, so you're given a full year to complete that. For those that don't have it completed by June 1st, your certification will be in a pending status and will remain in a pending status until you complete those. So you can't be recertified until they're done. It is a requirement. It has to get completed. So please, like Kayla said, don't procrastinate. It's easy to do that. I do that as well sometimes on things. So, but if you could just focus on even working on 5 a week or something, or 2 a week automatically to take some time away from the busy schedule to try to get those completed, that would be great. Because we don't want anyone to be affected with that. And the newer operators, whatever your start date was, Kayla sent you the due date for your training. You're also given a full year from the date of your start date. So, all right. Anything else, Kayla? How many operators do we actually have now? How many beds and how many operators do we have in the state currently?
Currently, let's see. Did I just update that too? Currently, we have 62 operators, 271 beds, or 271 recovery residences, my bad, and 2,423 beds, which is a huge success. So, got to get to 3,000.
10,000 probably.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you. Kelly, you want to introduce yourself and give some updates on RecCap?
So as you can see, my name is Kelly Darren and I am the project coordinator for RecCap. We're currently working in the state of Michigan to get all of our certified operators onboarded and using the system. I see a couple of familiar faces. Shout out Crystal. Crystal has gone through the entire process, has some folks in, completing evaluations, building men for life as well. And we're working with Fresh Coast. So we're really been able to move forward within the last couple of months about getting things done, and that is a massive improvement and is exciting to see. So just kind of be aware that I am sending additional emails out to individuals that have not had contact with me yet. If you do receive an email from me, please, I'm putting a link on there that will allow you to set up a Zoom specifically with me, so that we can kind of go through the process, look at what the application looks like, give you an idea of what it looks like and what the onboarding process looks like. We're working through everybody. We have about 15 operators in various stages of training and onboarding. Like Kayla said, we have about 61 or 62. So we're getting there. The people that I've been working with now have been wonderful, really good at getting information back and seeing the benefits of the system and what it can provide for us all. So we are definitely moving forward. I am going to go ahead and put my email in the chat as well. If you have not heard from me, everybody will be hearing from me. I have sent out welcome emails to every operator. If you have not received anything from me, if you could just drop me an email and let me know, or if you could check on the website to make sure we have the best contact email, make sure that's updated. I did receive some return to sender messages that they weren't on, or they were not able to be delivered. So I'm in the process of reaching out to those individuals by phone as well. So if you have a second, if you're doing the trainings or something like that, if you could pop on to our website and make sure that all the contact information on there is updated as well, or I'm sure Kayla takes care of that if you let her know as well. So that would be awesome. So thank you for your participation. For those who have really stepped up to the plate and kind of led the charge, it's greatly appreciated. And I look forward to working with all of you in the future.
Kelly, have you given out mini vouchers yet for the $300 up to $300 computer reimbursement?
I have. So for the $300 reimbursement, we need to be at the second training. There's 2 trainings in the onboarding process. So the organization does need to be in the beginning stages of the second training. And then I do email the voucher out so that by the time the training is completed, you'll have the time to go get your equipment, everything that you need to get going for this system.
Great. And then that will, again, the receipts and stuff would get sent to MARR. And and as long as everything's completed, then I will be the one that writes the check to you guys for reimbursement. So again, we asked the state for some additional assistance in this, so you guys wouldn't have to experience any hardship when it comes to having to purchase any equipment. So not everybody's going to be doing that, but for those that would like to do it, it's something that's available, which would be nice. So Wally, want to introduce yourself and give any updates that you have?
My name is Wally Slatinsky, as you can see. I'm outreach coordinator. I don't really have anything other than I've just been helping Kelly work a little bit with following up with folks and making some phone calls. So you may be hearing from me, just encouraging you to move forward with the RecCap program. I just think the other thing, Catherine, you'll probably speak to this, but some of us have been on multiple committee meetings.
Yes.
Getting ready for the MARR conference in October that Michigan is going to sponsor, and that's amazing that we're having that here, and being on the program committee and the sponsorship committee. I mean, we're putting together just an amazing group of speakers and presenters and doing some of the usual things and some new things to fit with the times and all that. So the focus the focus of the conference this year is going to be Anonymous No More. So it'll be a lot of speakers talking about anonymity, talking about recovery, talking about stigma, all that kind of stuff. In addition to that, we are, we're going to have speakers that are going to be talking about obviously the SSA, which is a single state authority, but also have speakers talking about what you can do in your own areas in order to develop resources to help you with your recovery residences. So it's going to be an all-encompassing conference, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great one this year. So hope y'all can find time to attend. That's about it.
We
Catherine.
have,
Thanks.
yeah, thank you, Wally. We have sponsors that will typically sponsor every year, which helps to fund the meeting, the conference, and we're always looking for more. So Wally's coming up with a list of a lot of sponsors, possible sponsors throughout the state of Michigan that can represent. We're going to have people coming from all over the country and give a great opportunity for you guys, or you can donate a little bit or know somebody or an organization that would like to donate or be a part of this operation. That would be amazing. So we're also looking for any operators that maybe live in the area or close to the area of Dearborn that would like to volunteer during the conference. So we're going to need people at different doors, keeping track of CEUs and doing other things there at the conference. And if you're interested in doing any kind of volunteering, please reach out and let us know. You can actually, Kayla can keep track of that. If you want to go ahead and put your name and information in the chat that you're interested in volunteering for the conference, that would be great. It's in October. It's the first week of October. It's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Open up my thing to October. If you're the correct dates, it is. So it's October. It's going to be the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of October, the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And it's going to be at the Henry Hotel in Dearborn, Michigan. And we hope that everybody can attend. That would be amazing.
Thank you,
Does anyone
Maria,
have any
for
questions about-
volunteering.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, Kayla, if you could keep track of those, because I have a committee meeting again on Friday with everybody, because they're going to want to know who else is going to want to volunteer. That would be great, and then they'll be able to reach out to you. So thank you for doing that. So Jeff Van Treese had another engagement this afternoon. He was sorry he could not attend. He did want us to bring up the conference and remind everybody when it was going to be, and see if anyone was wanting to volunteer for that. And if you have any other questions, there was no updates at this time state-wise as far as additional funding and stuff going on. We did report last time there were a few counties, I guess, that raised their rates, which was great for the operators. So some counties are PIHP areas are paying $28 a bed day, but then there's still some that are not paying that and paying a lower rate. So one thing that was brought to my attention, actually a couple times, was and I wanted to see if there's any other operators that are experiencing this. There's some PIHP areas that have mandated, if you have a contract with them, an individual can only be in a recovery residence for 3 months, period, and that's once per year. So again, this is not the norm, but this is something that I know a PIHP area is trying to enforce and is enforcing. So like if you have a resident in your home, let's say they relapse after 3 days, So you remove them from your home for the safety of the people in your home, and maybe they need, maybe you'll allow them to come back after 72 hours, but the PIHP that you're contracting with is saying no, that they cannot return, and cannot return for a full year. So I wanted to know if there's other PIHP areas and other recovery residences that are experiencing this, because I think this is detrimental to an individual that's seeking services. Sometimes relapse is a part of recovery, it's part of their journey. And it's really important that, you know, hey, if they made a mistake, then you don't want to just block them from going to a recovery residence for a whole nother year, because most likely they're going to go right back to where they came from, start using again, and heaven forbid, thinking about how many people are going to overdose, you know, during that time. So is there anybody else that you are? Candy?
Our mid-state funding is one time in recovery housing for every 12 months. If they do return, they can be self-pay though.
So they do allow them to return, but just can't be funded. They can
Correct.
self-pay. Okay. All right. Okay, that's good. That's good to know, because I've heard from another operator that they weren't even allowing them to self-pay. They were like, sounds like they were controlling everybody that was coming in the door. They couldn't even come in the door unless they came right from treatment. And that just, you know, you miss a whole nother population that get better on mom and dad's couch. You know, a lot of people try to do this on their own, and they may detox, you know, they might not go through treatment at all. And maybe they've been clean and sober for at least 2 weeks, and they just need some extra assistance, and they should not be blocked from being able to go to a recovery residence because they didn't go through treatment. Because in order for them to get to treatment, then they're going to have to start using again, right? You can't come to treatment because you're not currently using. So that forces the person really to start using again, even though they don't want to, just so they can get help. So it's, the system isn't perfect, and there's a lot of broken areas, and we want to do what we can to try to make things better for people. So does anyone else have anything they want to report on what's going on in your area regarding people coming into your residence? Or
I saw that Kevin Faust had a question earlier. You put your hand down, Kevin, but did your question get answered?
It did not. I had my hand up for quite a while, and so I just kind of figured I could send it as an email and ask individually. But
Yeah.
my question is, and first off, sorry my camera's not on. I am sick and I look terrible, but I am still present.
No worries.
But my question is, with the MARR trainings, are those a one and done for existing operators, or are those something that MARR is considering making it that you have to do annually? What are we currently looking at for that?
it's a one and done. We want you to do those trainings. Will there be future different trainings, you know, created by the National Alliance that they want the affiliates to do? Could be, but these particular trainings, it's one and done. We want to make sure that people are doing them, and as many individuals in your organization do them, preferably. But we want at least one individual from your organization. You can choose who that you want that to be. But the more people that take them, it's better. So did that answer your question, Kevin?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, like again, there might be some future trainings. I'm not aware of any right now. I know there's some training going on for individuals that have RCOs, so recovery community organizations or recovery community centers. There is training being done so that they'll have training as well, because MARR is going to be, the state has approached MARR and would like MARR to certify recovery community centers and organizations now too. So that's in the process.
Yeah, and speaking of which, if anyone, I don't know if anyone on this call right now is involved in an RCO or is planning to start an RCO, but the couple questions we have got so far, because we do have an application up for that now to become RCO accredited on our website. So if you plan on filling out that application or if you've started it at all, and the main question we've gotten is if you have to recreate all of the RCO standards for your RCO. We've gotten that question clarified, and you do not have to recreate the wheel. As you will probably find out, RCOs are already affiliated with a recovery program, and especially if it's a certified recovery program, all of that documentation is already utilized and can be submitted on behalf of your affiliated program. So if you are an RCO, you do not have to recreate the wheel. You can submit documentation on behalf of the program you are affiliated with. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I just noticed somebody, I'm sorry if I'm going out of line here. There was a message from John Kaiser, opening up a men's recovery residence for Catholic Social Services in the Upper Peninsula, and wanted my email contact. Pick my brain on things, so yeah, feel free. I put my email in the chat, so feel free to contact me anytime. Anybody, if you got any questions about something and are unsure about something, if I don't have the answer, I'll work on getting the answer for you. So, does anybody have anything, any questions about what we brought up so far? Thank you, Maria's House, interested in volunteering.
We do have a few topics that were submitted in our operator feedback survey. I'm not sure if those who submitted these topics are on the call right now. Hopefully they are, but we do have a couple of maybe topics we can discuss, such as where can recovery houses get their 12-panel drug tests from?
Anybody have any recommendations where you get your 12-panel tests from? You can share.
I use drugtestinbulk.com. I found that it's been a very reliable, very affordable resource, and they have quite a variety of different drug tests available. You know, if you need specific kinds of drug tests, they've got a good variety and great inventory.
Thank you, Kevin. What do you guys, every area seems to require something a little different. What does your area require? Is it a 12 panel or higher? Or?
So we do utilize a 12-panel drug test. We also have a breathalyzer in each house as well. And then we also have an additional kind of drug testing, which is still a 12-panel, but it's got the adulteration strips built into it. So if you think someone is adulterating their sample, you can check and make sure that the creatinine, specific gravity, and all of that is still good.
Thank you for sharing that. Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, one of the other topics that somebody brought up is, you know, like how to save some money. So since we're on this topic right now with drug tests, working with another operator, like, hey, you know, you're going to order bulk, you know, hey, how about I pitch in, or few operators pitch in, and then you can kind of split them, split the drug panels as well, maybe go in together. That could be a good way to save some money. Or, you know, somebody who's running a treatment facility or something, but reaching out to another operator that needs to buy these anyway, might be a good way for you to save some dollars here and there.
Thank you, Lisa, for submitting another website in the chat.
I know I use 12panelnow.com to purchase them, and they have certain bulk pricing. I can't remember where it starts at, but I often get at least 100 at a time, and that does give me a discount compared to the lower amounts. So it's also a website you can look at that gives some volume discounts.
Yeah, thank you. that's a reminder that's a great reason too for other operators to go in together, because the more you buy, less expensive they'll be. So thank you, Preston. What does Kent County now require? What kind of test? They require the 12 panel as well?
The Kent County or Network 180, that's the CMH for Kent County, does not tell us what they would like us to use. What I've done is I have recovery coaches that work for me that are very tuned into where many of the mishaps are happening, or what are some of the most common drugs that people are using. And I rely on them to kind of tell me what combination we need at a minimum. And then I just make sure I pick up a panel test that will cover that. We've kind of gone back and forth on theories. At one point, we were using a 16 panel because we wanted to get everything possible. But then we're finding that maybe we'll go back to getting 2, maybe 3 varieties. And then that way we can lower our price point per test. Because most of the time when we're testing someone, we already have a good idea of what they're possibly needing to look for. So, yeah, so you can go on those 2 different theories too.
Thank you for that information. There's also cold season. So a lot of places in the past have had issues with people taking Robitussin and getting high on Robitussin. So my understanding was that there's a specific test that you can test specifically just for Robitussin as well. And there's a lot of false positives too. So for example, somebody's on Zoloft, they could test, it could be a false positive, I believe it's for cocaine. So before you drop somebody, you want to maybe check to see what medications they're on, or if they're on antibiotics. Certain antibiotics, I believe penicillin's another one that can give you a false positive on something. So if somebody's on antibiotics, you want to check with that. And Google is your friend. So if you're not sure, you can also Google that medication and ask Google if it's going to give you a false positive. So some people know the system and very well and work the system. So when you drop them, they might say, well, I was just on amoxicillin, and so I'm going to test positive for something. Well, they can show you proof of that, prescription, I guess, if they were on amoxicillin. But just be aware that before you remove somebody from your home because they tested positive, if they're not presenting under the influence, it could be a false positive of a medication that they're on.
While we're on that topic, one of the other topics for Zoom that was requested was how to remove a participant with a positive drug test from your home.
There's no one way to do it.
Mm.
I'll let the other operators reach out for that, but it all depends on the situation. Are they belligerent? Are they, it's every situation's different. So, Justin Kroll, want to give an example of how you remove somebody that's test positive in your home?
How did I know you were going to call on me?
I don't know.
All right, so I believe like you said, every case is a little bit different. It depends on we had just, in fact, yesterday we had a lady come to us from treatment, and she stopped at the quote pharmacy, got her prescriptions filled. This is literally yesterday. And she's prescribed Suboxone, right? And so we don't allow the use of Suboxone or methadone or anything like that at any of our houses. But when my operations manager got over there to do the intake with her, she was like super nervous and and obviously it was high. And so he was just like, and she was honest about it. And he's like, listen, you're gonna have to leave. This is like at I think 2:30 yesterday. And he gave her till 6 o'clock to get all of her belongings and leave, you know, and so, but for other examples, you know, say somebody comes home hammered and they've been with us 6 months, you know, comes home drunk at like 11 at night. Do we kick them out hammered, drunk in the middle of the winter at 11 at night? No. So obviously, you know, we would obviously we wouldn't want them like belligerently walking around in the middle of winter drunk or whatever, or driving. And so in some cases we would allow them to stay the night and then have them leave to go or do whatever they got to do, you know, go back to treatment or whatever. But I do believe it's a case by case thing. You know, we don't allow it's zero tolerance here. But I do believe that it's different for everyone. You know, and everyone does a little bit different. So.
I agree with that. I'm glad you brought that up, actually. Just a minute, Crystal. I'll get back to you for a minute. When my late husband and I ran recovery residence, there was a situation you reminded me of, and it was an elderly individual. He was in his 80s, came back under the influence at curfew. So it was like 11 o'clock at night. Was not causing any problems, was not, you know, and so we told him our fear was if we were to remove him at that time, he might just pass out in the snow and freeze to death, you know, which we didn't want that to happen. So we asked him, we told him that if he retired to his room immediately, he would need to leave in the morning, but we would allow him to sleep it off that night. And again, so he could safely leave the next day. But every situation again is different. We didn't have a place for an individual to go that was a safe place for them to go at the time. And again, you're right. You don't want to tell them they need to leave and know they got a car sitting out front, you know, and they're going to be driving. And now you got somebody driving under the influence. So if that does happen, you're responsible to notify the police immediately that somebody is driving under the influence. So hopefully they can get caught before they kill somebody or themselves. So Crystal, want to say something? You're muted.
Yeah, so I agree, each situation is different and we've had a few different kind of situations, right? So we have mothers with a minor child. And so when we've had a mom that have used either after we discovered she was using after coming out from out in the community, there are situations where I try to work with mom. Of course, we want to just, you know, talk a little bit more about what happened and all of that, how can we prevent it? But then there's we do where, of course, some of the privileges of being able to go out into the community may be restricted for a period of time, with the exception of their 12-step meetings. We try to put in place areas where we may need to ramp up services for them. If it's, you know, we'll explore, do they need to go to outpatient services? If they're working with a recovery coach, how can we wrap around this client with this relapse that she has? And so after that first initial, if it was a one-time thing, that's kind of the plan we put in place to see how we can help them get back on track. Now, if this person again at some point relapse again after putting in some of the prevention steps, then we look at dismissal from the program, because we have in our program, we have to look at the safety of even the kiddos and everyone. Now, then there was a situation where it was a little different when we had mom bring in paraphernalia, substances, and we, you know, and I walked in on them physically using. At that point, that was immediate dismissal. And of course, we had to call CPS and, you know, things of that nature. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's really challenging working with individuals that have children there on site. And that's one of the dangers too. I mean, there's so many drugs out there now that look like candy. You know, they're all different colors, and you get children in there, and if something's left out, they just think it looks like Skittles or something, and it could be something that kills them. So another concern with women and children's home, and not just the relapse, but they could relapse, but what if they don't come back? What if they left their child in their room, close the door, thinking I'll be back in an hour, and then they don't come back. So do you have a system in place where you're checking the rooms to make sure that there's no baby left in the crib or anything, when the parent leaves? So a lot of things to consider. Relapse happens no matter how far along you are in your sobriety. So Lee Zinsky, haven't heard from you in a while. What goes on there? You have to remove somebody. You're muted.
Hello, everyone. I don't know. We terminate people who, because we are trying to create a zero tolerance environment, so people are terminated. We give them a chance to contact the access line to find another place to go, or to go back to treatment if they so wish, or to contact their relatives and go out into the community. But people who use cannot stay with us in the recovery house.
Have you had a situation in your recovery home where somebody just refused to leave? And then what do you do?
We really have not had that kind of situation. We're prepared to call the police if we have to.
Okay.
Generally,
Police
that
support you.
we
Police support you in that area?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, my house managers live on site, and we are very clear with folks, and we operate differently too. So our residence is temporary for 120 days. So people know that they're going to be there only temporarily in the first place, even if everything goes perfect. So we're very clear in the beginning about the zero tolerance policy, about the termination, that you're subject to termination. And so we usually don't have a whole lot of resistance. It's more that people will try to ask for a second chance, ask for us to change our mind, try to explain. So if we do an instant test and the resident says that there's a mistake there, then we do a lab test. And once we get the labs back, we go with what the lab says.
How quick of a turnaround is our lab tests?
For us, because we are associated with a residential treatment center, that turnaround can be within 48 hours sometimes.
Oh, so meanwhile, you have to let that person stay?
We're willing for that to happen. We tell folks, if you dispute the result, okay, we'll wait for the science, provided they don't behave in a way that makes it impossible for them to stay. And certainly when people are intoxicated, we want them to stay at least until the next day. So we're not all that anxious. We just don't want to put people out on the sidewalk under any circumstance, and unless there's violence or so we're trying to work with folks to give them a chance to make arrangements to be in the next place. And if we can persuade you to go back to treatment and that seems to be in your best interest, then we want to help you get there too.
Yep, that makes sense. Makes sense.
Kim has her hand raised.
Kim?
Yeah, hi, this is Kim from Kim K's Macomb County area. And I've had so many different situations with, with that situation of people being intoxicated, coming in intoxicated. And, it's really based on individuals and how that situation goes. But how I run my program is that people have to leave immediately. If they're too intoxicated, I will take them to the hospital myself, or whoever is working with me, and make sure that they're there, before I, make that decision, because I don't want them out there in the streets and get hurt. I had a person one time that refused to go, was extremely intoxicated with alcohol, did have keys to a vehicle. I took the keys. And they were very angry, but didn't matter. You know, I took the keys and you know, allowed them to figure out whatever they wanted to figure out, because they didn't want to go, they didn't want to stay, they wanted to drive, but I wouldn't let them drive. So it really does. And then there are people that refuse to go. And so I usually call the police. Sometimes they are willing to work with you and sometimes they're not. Sometimes you're tossing a coin there because, you know, they try to tell them that they don't have to leave or something like that, and they make it really difficult. But you know, it's really you know, it's really a difficult situation sometimes, because you want to keep the other people in the house safe, and you know, that's the primary purpose of all of that, you know. But relapse does happen. It really, really does. And that's why I really never wanted to do the women with children, because it was, I can't even imagine how that would be, you know. So that would be really difficult. So kudos to you that are. And you know, so yeah, I think it's, my policy is that you have to go into a detox right away, no matter if you took a hit off a joint, a sip out of a bottle, you drank mouthwash because it was just an accident, you didn't know. It doesn't matter. Like, you have to get into detox. So that's going to be your decision at that time. So whatever, you know, you make the decision. I do have a house, however, that I call the medical house. And if people aren't like needing to detox really, because you can't get into a detox if you don't really need to detox, and I allow them to go there to be safe, and they pay a fee for a day or two.
What kind of
or three.
oversight is there?
There-
What kind of
there's
oversight
me.
do you have
It's,
there?
it's my little bubble house. It's right next door to me. It's me. I'm right there.
So you're the nurse in case somebody does have a seizure and.
Yeah, I'm right there. It's like a fishbowl. Like, it's my house is like right there. But it's not necessarily that. Like, if they only had like one drink, two drinks, they're not too intoxicated, something like that. That's more of what that house is.
And something to keep in mind as well for everybody, thank you for everyone that's spoken up, is just because you caught them does not mean that's the first time. They've probably been using for a while, and then after a while they get a little sloppy, and then that's when you catch them. So so that's something to keep in mind as well. So, and if you suspect those room searches, I mean, you have a right to do room searches on people, and then to make sure that, lift that toilet tank, make sure they don't have that alcohol taped to the inside of that water to keep it cold, and lift those mattresses periodically, check them. They're in a recovery residence. They have to expect they're going to be held accountable. And it's really important that you keep your home, keep your environment safe. So if somebody was using, they could be hiding, they might hide it in somebody else's bathroom or under somebody else's bed too, hoping that they'll get caught. So just again, something else to keep in mind. How about you, Christy? I know you've had some.
Well, we have a couple of hand raised. Patty and John.
I can't see. I apologize. I can't see for some reason where the hands are. Where am I supposed to look for that?
On
One question I had regarding this topic was, if we have someone intoxicated or high on drugs and I get the thing of like, if we let them sleep it off and let's say they fall down the steps and hurt themselves, is there a liability issue there? That was my question.
Well, that's why you have commercial general liability insurance, because things will happen. It's not if you're going to be sued, it's when you'll be sued. Somebody could be under the influence and they trip over a footstool and break their leg. You know what? They're going to go after you and to pay those medical bills. So you have that kind of protection to help you against that. And just, you could have a burglar come in your home. They don't even live there, trip over a footstool and break their leg, and they can sue the homeowner for that as well. That's crazy, isn't it? So again, that's why we push everybody to have that commercial general liability insurance. If you haven't been sued yet, that's amazing. But it's someday it will come, unfortunately. So
Justin?
Okay, one quick note on that. I was just looking through our sober living agreement. Okay, and this is the document that each resident signs and agrees to when they come in on their intake process. And I got this tip from Miss Catherine, and I was asking her about the trouble. So say, for example, somebody's comes test positive and admits to using, but they're like, well, I'm not leaving because you have to evict me, right? You have to take me to court to evict me, and I'm sure I don't know, we've had instances like that over the years. And so I think I'm just counting right here at least 4 times, maybe 5 or 6. It says Vision Quest Recovery Housing operates as a voluntary enrollment program and is not governed by tenant landlord laws. So I got that directly from Catherine or something along those lines. And what it does is we talk about that. It's like we are not a tenant, we are not bound by tenant landlord laws. And we have good relationships with the local police officers, the sheriffs, and the state police in our area. They all know the recovery houses, they deal with the shenanigans that those bring. And so that's another thing too, that because somebody may or may not be under the influence and say, well, I'm not leaving, this and that. And we simply just call the police. The police are like, all right, cool. We know your guys' policies. We know what they've signed and all that kind of stuff. So they just take them away or whatever. So that's it.
that's great. And that verbiage that you used was something that my late husband and we had in our agreement. It was a non-tenant landlord form that we used as part of our intake packet, and we had a lawyer actually help us write that up. So the verbiage would help us if we ever had to go to court and remove that person, because they actually sign and date that they're aware that, and it said more specific things like you will need to leave immediately. You understand that you will need to leave the grounds or you'll be trespassing, and they sign that they understand that. And I would always elaborate on that. I'd say, so this is more like a gym membership, right? So if you don't follow the rules of a gym, you got to go, right? Yeah, they get that. Well, this is a lot like a gym membership. If you don't follow the rules of the home, relapse, or you're not doing what you're supposed to do, we're going to say pack your stuff and go. And you understand, yeah, then they sign a date. So that's just another tool that can be helpful. Again, it depends on the police officer, it depends on your area. Some will work with you, some don't even want to be bothered. Another thing that can be helpful again is when you sign a receipt for an individual that pays program fees. Remember, it's program fees. You're a program of enrollment. It's not a lease, it's not rent. So don't ever sign like a lot of the ready-made receipts say lease or rent. And if you draw a line through it and then put program fees and what they paid and give that to them. But if you're signing something and giving them something saying that they're leasing or renting from you, that will bind you to tenant landlord laws, and you will have to go through the eviction process. And there's operators that have had to go through the eviction process, even though they don't have anything that says lease or, that they're leasing or renting. So again, depending on your area, unfortunately, operators have had to go through the expense. I know of an operator that shared that this person would not leave and kept using. And so they end up removing, fortunately, they had several other homes, but they ended up having to remove everybody else from that home. And it took over 30 days to get that individual evicted from that home. In the meantime, they did all kinds of damage to it. So this is something, it's a law that's got to be changed. And it takes time and it's difficult to do that. But that's something that we're hoping will take place, where there'll be something in place so that if somebody does present under the influence and it's detrimental for them to be in your home, unsafe for others to be around them, then they need to leave. And police officers will need to enforce that. You can call them and they will back you up and they'll remove the individual. So they have that in a couple states. We're pushing for that, hopefully here in Michigan. That'll take place, and that's going to be a game changer for you guys. So is there another hand raised, Kayla?
There is not. We do have another topic that someone wanted to discuss though, if anybody else has any remaining comments. No? Okay. Someone has asked if any operators have had issues with gender-specific residences and someone that is not trans or transitioning but identifies as non-binary. So has anyone dealt with any non-binary residents?
Now, I'm not familiar with all the terminologies. Yep, it seems like I'm learning something different all the time.
So
But I believe it's
non-binary is
non-binary is where they don't identify as male or
male or
female.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything they want to talk about on that? Any experience?
Christina?
Hi, so what we have been doing is asking them where they feel comfortable at and then talking to the house regarding those type of situations. Making sure that everybody's comfortable and everybody's where they want to be type deal. And that generally the people in the house don't have any issues, and then it's just figuring out whether they feel most comfortable at that point.
Now, has this been typically a male, somebody that presents as a male wanting to go into a female home, or is this a female that's not that presents as a female but is not identify as either going into a male home? Christina.
So, most of our experience has been with, or well, most of my experience has been with a female that has now identified as male or non-binary. So then it's just their preference, which is mostly into a female household just because they feel safer there. So.
Patty and Don?
Hi, everybody. I want to ask the question because I'm new in this role. Coming from Chicago, it's a little bit different. I'm in the Upper Peninsula now, and I just, if they're transitioning, I know that's a whole different issue. But like if someone's just more comfortable as a female wanting to live in the male house, I guess, are we bound by any laws to like honor that or not ask? Like, can we keep it gender specific? And the other side of that is, because I'm from the state, but coming back, like, is there anything binding us is it different if they are transitioning?
My understanding is there is no law that says that you have to take that person. She's identifying as a female and she wants to, or maybe even if it's a male, wants to go into a female setting because they feel more comfortable. There's no law that says that you have to take that individual. The National Alliance is working on some standards and guidelines to help in this area. They do have guidelines for if it's a female that maybe transgender or wants to identify as a male going into a male home. They've identified that. The concern with the other way around with a male going into a female, even though they say they identify as a female, is there could be a lot of issues with other females maybe living in the home, being abused by a male in the past, or what if the person isn't telling the full truth? It's just stuff you got to think about, and he just wants access to maybe possibly rape an individual, or you got to think about the safety of the home as well. We brought this up a few meetings ago, and there's no one way to do anything, but what I recommended is if you're an operator and you have an opportunity to change your services or open your services in a different way so that you can somehow accept individuals that are not identifying as male or female, or maybe they were born one way and they're identifying something different. One way to do that is to possibly have a co-ed home. I don't like single rooms at all. People die in single rooms often. So But that could be a possibility too. I mean, maybe you have a single room that individual could go into, so they get undressed, or, there could be some privacy going on there. Also, maybe having something changed in your documentation. So instead of having an individual come to your home and say, hi, my name is Bob, but I want to be called Mary, and I want to live in your recovery residence. Instead of talking to all your residents at the home to get their permission, hey, this person's identifying as female, are you okay with that? We don't want to out that individual necessarily. You want to treat them like everybody else. Instead of having that kind of situation, possibly having something in your intake paperwork that everybody agrees and signs when they first come in. We take individuals of different gender, and just know that we could have an individual that comes in this home at any time that might identify one way, even though they were born another way. You may have a roommate, just so you kind of open up the possibility of maybe that happening in your home, and have each individual that's in the home sign that, agreeing and understanding that this could happen someday. That way, when it does happen, it's nothing new. They all sign something agreeing that they understand. Not everyone's going to be comfortable with that, but that is another way, I think, that just introducing the possibility of that happening to a resident before they even come into your home, I think is a smart way to do it, and a way to kind of protect yourselves as well. There's, unfortunately, you could be sued for anything. If somebody comes to your home and says, I identify as a female and I want to live in a female home, too, and you say no, because you're a male, I can see you're a male, you can't live here, they could sue you. Whether they'll succeed or not, I don't know, but you're denying them a service based on gender. And so you want to do what you can do to try to avoid that type of situation. I mean, if you're full, that's one thing, or if you have a policy in place where you work with individuals, but you just don't, that room isn't available at the time, that's another thing. But to just outright say, I'm not going to work with you because you're transgender, then you're opening yourself up to a lawsuit. So it's really important that we try to see if your home can work with individuals that are transitioning and going through that. If everybody needs a safe place to go, they all have a right to recovery. And I don't see there being just LGBTQ plus homes and male homes and female homes. I see more, it would probably work better if there were more co-ed homes that could work with individuals. So that way, no matter how they're identifying, there's a place for them to go, and a safe place where they feel safe and they're getting the help they need without being outcast.
Patty and Don, did you have something else to say?
Yeah, just one more thing, Catherine. The only thing, is there a difference legally? I know this is ever growing, ever changing, organic, and it's going to probably keep changing, but between identification, transitioning, and fully transitioned. If someone's fully transitioned, is it all the same right now?
I'm not an attorney. I really can't give you that, but I'm just giving you an advice as from what I've heard other operators go through. And so I can't give you that kind of advice. I would contact an attorney. You can get an hour for free, typically, consultation if you need to talk about something, but it is a subject that's here. It's not going anywhere. And as an operator, I think it's really important that you try to find a way that you can work with individuals that are going through that in their lives. So
Yeah, and Don, I can understand your desire to want to know all the technical stuff that goes with this subject matter, but I find that it goes a really long way that when you have when you have a special case scenario of someone wanting to come in that's not considered the most traditional, it goes a long way by just having a good detailed verbal conversation with the person to get a good feed of what they're all about, why they're coming to you, so you can determine, are you a good fit for them and are they a good fit for your program? And even though it's not always available, I know some of my team members have asked, hey, do you have a counselor or a caseworker you worked with? Could we talk to that person too to get another viewpoint of what your needs are so we can better assess that we can actually help you? And by doing it, that can get you real far where you can get the comfort level of, does it make sense for your organization? But yeah, as Catherine said, these laws are so new and underdeveloped that, yeah, there's just no good answers when it comes to the technical stuff at this time. Me personally, my organization historically has not had any problems. So I know my team has their guard down because there just has not been any evidence of being a problem. But, you know, that's my 2 cents.
That's good
Thank you,
advice.
Preston. Yeah. We're at the top of the hour. There, I see something. Does everyone have a no refund policy? As a previous operator, we had a no refund policy. So, and that was in the paperwork. They signed agreeing, you know, if you want to pay week by week, every other week, or by the month, just know that there is no refunds. Depending on the situation, maybe somebody needed to be hospitalized, you know, for use. They went back into treatment. In cases like that, sometimes, you know, if they had like 2 weeks left or something, we would allow them to return to us after they're done with treatment, and we'd have that 2-week credit still on the books for them. But we never handed anybody money back. Well, one situation we did, parents paid for somebody to come in the door and they never showed up. So we gave the parents the money back. So
Yeah, I answered too in the chat that it definitely depends on the financial requirements for the program, because we have seen all sorts of different financial requirements. Some people offer refunds on a case-by-case basis, depending on the situation. Some people are strict no refund policy no matter what. It really just depends. Some
make
people
sure you
have
have
full
it in
funding
your,
available, some don't too. So like there's that circumstance. It just
have
depends.
it in writing. Whatever you do, make sure it's in writing and you've got to follow it. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time, and see you next month, second Wednesday.
Okay. Bye.